Hello and happy Monday. I'm Kate, Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministries at Dandridge First United Methodist Church. This is our Young Adult Online Devotional Study. You're hopping into week 2 of a 16-week study on the Gospel of Mark. Comment below to let us know how you found us or how you know about Dandridge First. We'd love to get to know you better. Now, let's jump right into Mark chapter 2. I'm going to say up front, and I know that I also said it last week, and I might keep saying it again and again, but man, this chapter is so full of good stuff. I wish that we could spend the whole video for weeks talking about Mark chapter 2, but we're just going to pick one story. If you decide to read more, and there will be some reading suggestions at the end of this video, if you decide to read more, please comment below or email me to talk more about it because I'd love to hear what you think about some of the other passages. But for now, we're just going to focus on one story, so let's go to the Word. Mark chapter 2, verses 13 through 17. Once again, Jesus went out beside the lake. A large crowd came to him, and he began to teach them. As he walked along, he saw Levi sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," Jesus told him, and Levi got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. When the teachers of the law, who were Pharisees, saw him eating with the sinners and tax collectors, they asked his disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said to them, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Okay, so let's dig in. Verse 17 is such a well-known verse. I have not come for the healthy, but the sick. What does that really mean, though? Remember that last week we talked about how John Mark wrote a bios, a biographical account that has the purpose for highlighting something very specific about Jesus. One of John Mark's main reasons for writing this bios was to show us that Jesus is a misunderstood Messiah. This, right here, is one of the earliest accounts we have of Jesus being truly misunderstood. Here, Jesus sees a tax collector. Now, tax collectors had a horrible reputation, not just because they had the reputation of taking your money for the government, but because often tax collectors took additional money for themselves as their payment before they paid the government for whom they worked. Jesus sees this tax collector, Levi, and he says, much like he did in last week's lesson about Peter, "Come and follow me." Levi, without hesitation, gets up and follows Jesus. They end up eating dinner together at Levi's house. Okay, so they're acquaintances now, and they eat dinner together. That doesn't really bother us. We eat dinner with our friends, our colleagues, our teammates. But verse 15 tells us a little more. They're not eating dinner alone. While they eat, they're eating with the disciples and then other tax collectors. And okay, that makes sense to us too, right? They each brought some friends to dinner. But John Mark also writes, "and sinners." And wow, that could cover a lot of ground. The reality is, this could mean pretty much anything, as bad as murderers and rapists, or maybe just common thieves, maybe just a divorced person, maybe just someone who broke a tiny little religious law. Maybe they, picked some food from a field on the Sabbath, or wore clothes made of both linen and wool at the same time. But either way, they are considered sinners. They're not considered holy. Maybe they're a little like us. Maybe each one of us has something that makes us a little less than holy. When the Pharisees, the legal and religious elite of the time, come by and see that Jesus is eating with these less than perfect, less than holy people, they kind of spaz out. They suggest, perhaps in an outrageous whisper, if he's so holy, why is he sitting with these sinners? But Jesus hears. And Jesus explains that the role of Messiah itself is very misunderstood. In this famous verse, this kind of one-line comeback, he shows how misunderstood he is. The Messiah was never intended to come only for those who have somehow achieved what they believe is, qualifications for righteousness, right? They've somehow earned this righteousness. He's not coming to clap the righteous on the back and say, "Well done," but instead to teach us all. Instead, he's come to teach and lead the sinners. A sick man needs a doctor. A healthy one does not, but he should probably go for a checkup anyway. A sinning man needs a savior, but a righteous man should still seek the Messiah's wise instructions. So this week, I have a question for you to ponder and pray over. Are you a sick man or a healthy man? A sinner or righteous? And in what way do you need Jesus right now? I also have a few suggested additional readings for you if you're interested in learning more about this Jesus that we're coming to know. You can read about Jesus healing a paralyzed man whose friends literally drop him through the roof so that he can meet Jesus. That's in Mark chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. And you can also read about Jesus himself breaking the Sabbath rules in Mark chapter 2, verses 23 through 28. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this week's study, or if you have any specific prayer requests. I'll also leave a link below where you can leave private prayer requests if you'd like for me to pray for you this week. Don't forget to follow our church on social media. You can find out any news or events that are happening, and you can also join us for in-person or online services at both 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. every Sunday. I'll see you next week when we'll study more about Mark chapter 3.